####. I'm Lori. Sitting here in this quiet coffee shop, the steam from my cup curling up in the soft amber light, I can't help but let my mind drift back to that fateful day. The day my world, or what I thought was my world, came crashing down. It all started with that so-called family emergency. I remember the voicemail like it was yesterday. My mother, Clara, her voice cold and sharp as a knife. "Lori, you need to come over. It's urgent. It's about the family." No details, just that cryptic message. And it was early, just after 7 a.m. On a Sunday. The kind of call that makes your heart drop into your stomach. I grabbed my coat, my mind racing with all the worst-case scenarios. I drove the short distance to their house in silence. As I pulled up, the house looked so normal. Too normal. The perfectly painted mailbox, the well-manicured lawn. It was like a picture-perfect facade hiding a dark secret. When I stepped inside, Clara was there, looking as put together as ever. Her lipstick was fresh, and her gray hair was neatly pulled back into a bun. She greeted me like a hostess at a fancy party, but I could sense the tension in the air. My father, Henry, was sitting at the dining room table, his back straight, his thick glasses catching the early morning light. He didn't say a word, just gave me a half-apologetic nod. "Sit down," Clara said. "We'll make this brief." It sounded like she was delivering a death sentence. And then, she slid a manila envelope across the table towards me. I looked at her, confused. "What's this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "Open it." Inside was an invoice, a detailed list of every expense they claimed to have incurred raising me. Formula, baby supplies, electricity, water, transportation, even emotional labor. It totaled $190,000. I stared at it in disbelief, thinking it was some kind of sick joke. But then Clara spoke, her voice as cold as ice. "You've done well for yourself, Lori. You're making good money. It's only fair to give back." Henry cleared his throat, still not looking me in the eye. "We gave you a strong start. We just think it's time to balance the scales." I felt a lump form in my throat. I remembered all those times I sat alone at school events while other kids' parents were there. I remembered the sacrifices I made, the struggles I went through on my own. And now they were treating me like a bill to be paid. I took a deep breath and looked them in the eye. Did I stop being your daughter and become a bill? The silence in the room was deafening. But I had something up my sleeve. I reached into my purse and pulled out 3 folded pages. Certified originals, proof that they had stolen my inheritance. I placed them on the table in front of them. "Grandpa didn't just leave me money," I said evenly. "He left me the land, the old rental units, and every last piece of art in his collection. And you both signed as executives. You knew." Clara's mouth twitched. "What are you talking about?" Henry shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I could see the guilt in his eyes. I told them about the box I found in the attic last year. The box with the will and the letter from Grandpa. I told them how I found out they had removed my name from the inheritance paperwork, forging my signature while I was in grief at the hospital. Clara scoffed. "Busy raising you." I stared at her. "You were always distant, Lori. Cold. Not like Ethan. He had heart." Ethan, my younger brother, who they always favored. I remembered how he once tried to ruin Grandpa's favorite painting, but they still saw him as the golden child. I leaned back, letting the silence sink in. "I paid off the mortgage on the duplex 2 years ago. The one you two sold behind my back. That property should have been mine." Henry finally looked up at me. "You were never supposed to find that," he said hoarsely. The air in the room shifted. I could feel the tension rising. Clara snapped, "Enough of this. You're making things up. You don't know what it cost us to keep this family together. I raised an eyebrow. Clara, I lived in a tiny apartment with a leaky roof for years while you two went on luxury vacations. I picked up one of the pages and slid it closer to Henry. This one signed by the county clerk, confirming receipt of the will, dated 3 days after Grandpa passed. And your names are right there. You knew. Clara reached out, but Henry caught her wrist. For the first time, she looked truly unsettled. I murmured, you used to tell me I was dramatic. Maybe I am, but drama doesn't lie. Paper trails don't lie. Just then, Ethan walked in. He took one look at the papers on the table and frowned. What's going on here? Clara quickly tried to cover up, but I wasn't going to let her. I told Ethan everything, about the stolen inheritance, the fake invoices. Ethan's face paled. I didn't know, he said quietly. I could see the shock and confusion in his eyes. But I knew he had always been sheltered by our parents. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. Back when Grandpa was sick, I helped him digitize all his records. There are receipts for the trust fund he set aside, the one you said didn't exist. I handed the flash drive to Mr. Thompson, our family accountant, who was also present. He hesitated for a moment, then inserted it into the laptop. As the files loaded, I could see the color drain from Clara's and Henry's faces. There were letters, ledger scans, and an audio file. The audio file was from a conversation between Clara and Grandpa. I could hear Clara's voice, high-pitched and desperate. So, you're sure there's no way she'd find out? Because what I need is something quiet, something that just shifts it over. And then Grandpa's calm, disapproving voice. Clara. Moving assets from one beneficiary to another without disclosure is theft. Plain and simple. The room fell silent. Mr. Thompson looked at them in horror. This is illegal, he said. Aunt Margaret, who had also come to the meeting, cleared her throat. If what Laurie is saying is true, then you two have committed felony fraud. Clara and Henry were in shock. They tried to defend themselves, but their words fell flat. I stood up, my voice steady. You sent me a bill. So, I'm sending you one too. I pulled out a second envelope and laid it on the table. It was an invoice for the unauthorized transfer of trust funds, fake legal fees, and emotional damages. As the days passed, the situation escalated. We had a mediation meeting. The mediator, a calm and neutral woman, laid out the forms. Today's meeting is about resolution, she said. I presented my offer. I will not pursue criminal charges if the full amount of $160,000 is repaid within 60 days, and you both sign this affidavit, relinquishing any claim to my property, inheritance, or legal name. Clara's voice cracked. We raised you. We don't deserve this. I met her eyes. You didn't raise me. You raised something you could control. But I broke free from that. During the 10-minute recess, Henry approached me. I know I failed you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked at him, my heart cold. You had chances. You chose silence. When we returned to the table, Clara's hand trembled as she signed the papers. Henry's face was blank. Ethan didn't ask to sign. He knew he didn't belong in this part of the drama. When it was all over, I collected my copy of the agreement and stood up. This isn't closure, I said. It's just me stepping out of the wreckage. I walked out of the room, not looking back. As I drove home that evening, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. I pulled into my driveway, and the porch light came on, casting a warm glow over the steps. I walked into the house and sat on the old velvet chair by the window, the one Grandpa used to nap in. On the side table was a cedar box. I opened it and took out the letter Grandpa had left me. The ink was faded in spots, but the words were clear. If you're reading this, it means you stayed true to who you are. I chose you because you were there when I needed you most. They'll say you owe them, but you don't owe them anything but the truth. I sat there for a long time, just thinking. And then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my cousin, Lily. "Hi, I read what happened. I think we need to talk about what they did to our side of the family." I stared at the screen, a small smile playing on my lips. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I knew there were still more battles to fight, but I was ready. I had the truth on my side, and that was the most powerful weapon of all. As I sat there in the coffee shop, lost in these memories, I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, just like the journey I had been through. But there was a newfound sense of peace, a feeling of release. I had come out of the darkness, and now, I was ready to build a new life, a life free from the shadows of my past.